What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So, after undefeated 3-division world champion, former junior welterweight, undisputed world champion, currently the WBO welterweight world champion, widely considered the best pound-for-pound boxer in the world, Terence Bud Crawford, on the wake of him defeating former IBF welterweight world champion, British superstar boxer Special K. Kell Brook in dramatic fashion as he stopped him in the 6th round. Dropped him, then ultimately stopped him. Referee saw enough, waved it off. With that said, there's been a lot of talks, according to Terence Bud Crawford's manager and promoter, legendary promoter, top-ranked CEO Bob Arum, who stated that they're looking to place on and have a showdown between Terence Bud Crawford and 8-division world champion, Filipino superstar boxer, who is currently the WBA welterweight world champion superstar boxer, Manny Pacquiao. But I'm here to bust the bubble. And I'm sorry to tell you guys that more than likely that's not going to happen. That Manny Pacquiao is going to choose Errol Spence Jr., undefeated unified WBC IBF welterweight world champion superstar boxer, who fights under the same promotional banner as Manny Pacquiao with the Premier Boxing Champions with the PBC, Showtime, and Fox. Manny Pacquiao has left ESPN and Top Rank because he no longer felt they valued him in the same light he valued himself. They no longer want to pay him in the manner he valued himself after he lost to legendary, now retired, turned promoter, Floyd Money Mayweather. After he lost to Floyd Mayweather, they had built Manny Pacquiao up to be the first guy to put a blemish on Floyd Mayweather's resume. When he couldn't follow through with that, and he wasn't successful, they no longer viewed him in the same light. And so, while he was under the same promotional banner with Terence Crawford at Top Rank, and they were talking about a Terence Crawford-Manny Pacquiao showdown, Manny Pacquiao asked for $20 million for that fight. And Bob Arum says it wasn't going to happen. He wasn't willing to pay $20 million to Manny Pacquiao. They felt like Manny Pacquiao was pricing himself out. And they felt like Manny Pacquiao saw the writing on the wall, the passing of the torch. So he was just looking to cash out. But on the contrary, Manny Pacquiao leaves Top Rank, leaves Bob Arum, signs with PBC, Premier Boxing Champions, has a stake in promotion and promoting his own brand. And guess what? Manny Pacquiao gets a reported upwards of $15 million for his first fight there against 4-division world champion superstar boxer Adrian the Problem Broner. Then he gets a reported over $20 million that he was looking for to fight Terence Crawford when he fought former unified, then undefeated WBA welterweight world champion Keith One-Time Thurman. And he defeated both these guys. And he got the money he was looking for. Miraculously, Manny Pacquiao is not going to turn around and take less money to fight Terence Crawford at a later stage and at a later age. That's not going to happen. Bob Arum recently came out and he stated that they had a deal done, an agreement on both sides. The fight was going to take place overseas November 14th for Terence Crawford and Manny Pacquiao, but the Board of Health stepped in due to the pandemic, due to social distancing, so on and such. And they said they couldn't allow and guarantee that fans would be allowed in attendance. Thus, there was no money to pay the purses, so the fight went by the wayside. Why did the fight go by the wayside? Because Bob Arum wasn't going to reach into his own pockets and shortchange himself and pay Manny Pacquiao. He didn't want to pay him from the beginning. He definitely don't want to pay him now. Bob Arum just recently stated in an interview promoting Terence Crawford's fight with Kell Brook that Terence Crawford cost them more money than he's gained in money, right? They lost more money in Terence Crawford's last 3 fights than they've gained. So essentially, Bob Arum stated he's not willing to go broke for Terence Crawford. He says he needs to promote himself. He should be a much bigger star, but he don't want to promote himself. He wants us to do all the work. Bob Arum stated that the money we lost on Terence Crawford in his last 3 fights, I could have built a mansion in Beverly Hills. So does this sound like a man that's willing to pay Manny Pacquiao $20 million? They were not willing to pay Keith Thurman for this. Keith Thurman was willing to step in for Manny Pacquiao for this November 14th showdown instead of them facing Kell Brook. Keith Thurman said, give me $10 million. And manager and trainer of Terence Crawford, Brian McIntyre, stated that Keith Thurman was pricing himself out. They don't have that type of money at the PBC because they don't have a promoter. And if they did, they would be sending him a contract and backing up the Brinks truck with a boatload of money to pay Terence Crawford. So this is the mindset not to pay Keith Thurman $10 million. Is there anybody that believes that Manny Pacquiao is going to get anything less than $20 million in a unification bout with undefeated welterweight who's under his umbrella and arguably is doing the biggest pay-per-views of anybody in the sport right now, and Errol Spence? He did 350,000 pay-per-view buys with Mikey Garcia, 325,000 pay-per-view buys with Sean Porter. He's going to do nothing less than 300,000 plus, if not 400,000, against Danny Garcia December 5th. Do you understand the numbers that are there for Manny Pacquiao and Errol Spence Jr.? Bob Arum doesn't want to pay Terence Crawford, let alone pay Manny Pacquiao once again, as Manny Pacquiao is standing on his own 2 feet. Errol Spence and Manny Pacquiao could make a boatload of money fighting each other for 3 belts than Manny Pacquiao can make fighting Terence Crawford for 2 belts. So there's no way Manny Pacquiao is going to shortchange himself if Terence Crawford is getting a reported $3 million with an added incentive of $1 million. Let's say Terence Crawford is getting paid $5 million, $7 million. Manny Pacquiao is getting almost $18 million for Adrian Broner and upwards of $20 million for Keith Thurman. What do you think? And he already stated prior to receiving that money with Adrian Broner and Keith Thurman that to fight Terence Crawford on Top Rank and ESPN, at the time it was Showtime. At the time it was HBO. He wanted $20 million. Do you think miraculously Bob Arum is going to come around and say, I'm going to give Manny Pacquiao $20 million now? Absolutely not. So there's no way that Manny Pacquiao is going to choose Terence Crawford over fighting Errol Spence. Manny Pacquiao in his next fight is going to fight 4-division world champion, Mexican superstar boxer, Mikey Garcia. He's going to earn another $15+ million. Then he's going to go on from there, and he's going to make another 20-something+ million fighting Errol Spence. So the question, now we beg the question, where does Terence Crawford go from here? That begs the question. That leaves Terence Crawford, pun intended, either he's going to get left out in the cold and never get these legacy fights, or he's going to leave Top Rank and Bob Arum out in the cold and further bolster his resume and his legacy for his Hall of Fame retirement, to be mentioned in the same breath as the greats of yesteryear. Sugar Ray Leonard, Marvin Hagler, Roberto Duran, Tommy Hearns, Aaron Pryor, that era. Because Errol Spence, Manny Pacquiao's legacy is already set in stone. He has Floyd Mayweather on his resume, even though he didn't win. He's been in there with all Hall of Famers: Miguel Cotto, Eric Morales, Barrera, Juan Manuel Marquez, Ricky Hatton is going to be a Hall of Famer. He's been in there, Timothy Bradley. He's been in there with a boatload of Hall of Famers. Adrian Broner is going to go in the Hall of Fame. I don't know how Keith Thurman's resume is going to turn out, but it's a possibility he could see himself go in the Hall of Fame one day. Errol Spence is fighting Mikey Garcia, Sean Porter, Kell Brook in the UK, Danny Garcia, Hall of Famer. All four of these guys are Hall of Famers. And then he could possibly land Manny Pacquiao. Danny Garcia has fought in unified belts at junior welterweight. He's world champion at WBC, world champion at welterweight. Fought Sean Porter. Fought Keith Thurman. Is going to fight Errol Spence. Has beaten the likes of Lucas Matisse. Beat Amir Khan in his prime. Hall of Famer. Sean Porter, Hall of Fame resume. So these guys, Keith Thurman has beaten Danny Garcia and Sean Porter. Lost to Manny Pacquiao, but was in the ring with Manny Pacquiao. So essentially, they're bolstering their legacy. Terence Crawford is the odd man out without the big guy, big name on his resume outside of now Kell Brook. So this begs the question, where does Terence Crawford go from here? He's going to have to leave Top Rank. It's not going to secure the Manny Pacquiao fight. That's not going to happen. One more thing. Terence Crawford stated that his resume, he stated that his resume it was void of that big legacy, rival, Hall of Fame type of guy on his resume. It was void of that. He also stated that his contract was up in October. Bob Arum was recently on Barbershop Conversations in which he stated that he has Terence Crawford under contract for another year and 2 more fights. Once again, there's another disconnect. Are you signed to them for 2 more fights? Do you owe them 2 more fights in another year? Like Bob Arum is saying? Or does your contract expire in October of 2021? Well, October of 2021 is essentially, I guess, another year, right? Now that I think about it. That is essentially another year because we're just in November. So October 2021 and 2 more fights, that's about right. But who are those 2 fights going to be? Bob Arum is not going to pay Manny Pacquiao the money he's looking for. He didn't want to pay it to him when he was at HBO, and he's not going to pay it now that he's not with him. Can you imagine that? So who are these 2 fights going to be? I gather Josh Taylor, Jose Ramirez winner. That can get him by. It's going to have to get a fight. They're going to have to pay the likes of a Sean Porter. Sean Porter's not going to come in the fight looking to get upwards of $10 million because Sean Porter's just, he's more so looking to bolster his legacy, his resume. He's built different. His approach is different. They're going to have to pay Sean Porter at least $8 million to come to ESPN and Top Rank and showcase his talents against Terence Crawford. Or they're going to have to pay Keith Thurman upwards of $10 million and have him face off against Terence Crawford. I know a lot of people saying, well, Errol Spence fight needs to happen next. Well, Terence Crawford stated that he don't want to fight Errol Spence next. He wants to fight Manny Pacquiao. Well, that's not going to happen. So we're not going to be able to blame Errol Spence for fighting Manny Pacquiao because Terence Crawford couldn't secure the Pacquiao fight. So see, what's going to happen is everybody's going to now turn and say, oh, well, Errol Spence needs to be fighting Terence Crawford. On the contrary. See, Errol Spence is going to be able to secure the Pacquiao fight, unlike Terence Crawford was able to secure the Pacquiao fight. So now, if Errol Spence secures the Pacquiao fight and Terence Crawford is unable to, and Manny Pacquiao chooses the route of Errol Spence over Terence Crawford, we cannot blame Errol Spence for going the route of fighting Manny Pacquiao because this is the same route that Terence Crawford wanted to take. He just wasn't able to secure the fight with Manny Pacquiao. And he will not be able to secure that fight with Manny Pacquiao because Manny Pacquiao is going to ask for a boatload of money that Brian McIntyre even stated that wasn't going to happen. So Sean Porter, the winner of Jose Ramirez, Josh Taylor fight, you can expect to see those fights take place in 2021. Thus why you have Timothy Bradley already setting the table when he told you guys it's not going to happen until 2022. See, because Timothy Bradley already knows the backstory. He already understands that unless Terence Crawford finds a way to buy himself out of the contract, he's going to have 2 fights with Top Rank. They're not going to pay Manny Pacquiao. They're definitely not going to pay Errol Spence. They're more than likely going to fight each other. So where does that leave Terence Crawford? With them creating a narrative that these guys are not looking to fight him, instead of telling the truth of Bob Arum just doesn't want to pay them, as Bob Arum tells the truth and says, I don't want to pay them. So let's see how this all plays out. Drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Blue, Blue Blood Sports TV. Hate, like, comment, and subscribe. If you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell icon to get all the new notifications. Follow me on Instagram at Blue Blood Sports TV, all one word. Y'all already know what it is. Shout out to the entire LDBC. Shout out to New Media. Shout out to Black Media Raw. Make sure you like and share these videos. That's all I got for y'all. Peace.